After Thanksgiving, all the Christmas stuff comes up, and I am in full mode to celebrate. Not only because I love giving presents, and I do like to receive them, because it's a time of the year where we go back to our innocence. We go back to who we are as children. We go back to that hope that we all have felt when we were children, and it's magical. To me, that's the magic of Christmas, going back to that place inside of us that never really goes away. And so for 1 month, I look around me and I see hope in people's faces. And with all the darkness that's been around us of late, it seems appropriate today to speak about the light. It's interesting that that's the song that was chosen to be played today. I don't know anything. When I come here, I don't know anything that's going to go on, in the prayers or the music, and yet it always seems to fit. This holiday season across religions represents life. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah and the second Sunday of Advent. Both of these celebrate light shining in from the darkness. Both holidays signify a new beginning, an answer to prayers, and a better tomorrow. In the darkness is a yearning to see something greater, and only light can illuminate that blackness. Only light can bring through the purity. In the darkness is death, yet the light calls forth a new life. Both of these themes run through these holidays that are celebrated this season. It's interesting to note that one of the similarities between Christmas and Hanukkah is the ancient and universal winter solstice celebration. The celebration of light and life in the midst of a barren darkness and the cold of winter. It is certainly at the heart of both Hanukkah and Christmas, so clearly reflected in the symbols of both holidays. The kindling of the light, and the ancient image of the tree of life. Both Judaism and Christianity incorporate the winter solstice into their respective developments of Hanukkah and Christmas, adding, of course, distinctive new historical and theological meanings. The most ancient symbol of Judaism, the 7-branch candlestick, which we call the menorah, represents God's presence and creative power embodied in the light. And the imagery of the many-branched trees as a symbol of God as the creative force in the natural world. The special 9-branch menorah used at Hanukkah linked these ideas to the universe winter solstice symbolism, celebrating light in the winter darkness and life in the midst of nature's barrenness. And of course, in later generations, Christians also incorporated these motifs in the tradition of the Feast of the Nativity, combining them into the evergreen and the lights on the Advent wreath and the Christmas tree. Druid holly and Germanic evergreens may be the immediate precursors of modern holiday symbols, but the biblical tree of life imagery and the idea of Jesus, and by extension, the Christian church as a branch of the tree whose roots are in Judaism, lie at the heart of the Christmas theological foundation. As the holiday season is upon us, both Advent and Hanukkah proclaim the light of hope, which we all so dearly need at this time. In the Hanukkah tradition, which begins with the kindling of one solitary candle on the first night of the festival and increases the light and joy as each additional candle is added to the menorah on a successive 8th night. At the end of the lighting of the candles, the meaning of the celebration is rededication of the temple and of Judaism. The parallel ceremony of the weekly addition of candles to the Advent wreath reflects hope of the new birth, the light in the darkness, and concluding with the birth of Christ. Or, in the Christian tradition, the dedication of the church and of Christianity. The kindling of the lights of both Hanukkah and Christmas remind us of a key dimension of the hopes of both of our faiths. That just as we light the candles to illuminate darkness in our religion, so too, ultimately and spiritually, it will be our personal initiative, energy, and commitment that will necessarily fulfill the hope that we long for as a people, universally. Symbolically, spiritually, there is no distinction between the two holidays. When the rhetoric is brought down, the spirituality is the same, with the goal and message of bringing hope. As we once again prepare to usher in both of these beloved festivals, may we be granted faith in the possibility of miracles, that the light will permeate the darkness. This is our prayer. May we together see and share the light from both traditions to bring us together in the hope that we all need to move into our tomorrows. As we usher in Hanukkah, let's reflect on the ancient biblical story and what it means for us today. And so it goes, that the Greeks, fearing that they would lose political control of Judea, enacted barbaric punishments against anyone found teaching, studying, or practicing Judaism. They defiled the Holy Temple by using it as a pagan temple and forced many of the Jews at the time to bow before Greek idols. They erected idols in every city and forced the Jews to bow down to them, which is against the Ten Commandments and in violation of Jewish law. In defiance of this treatment and religious persecution, a Jewish priest organized a revolt. He, his children, and a small band led by his son, Yehuda Maccabee, fought against the Greeks at overwhelming odds. Their army didn't compare to the power that the Greeks had militarily, and they miraculously won many battles. Yet in this war, unlike most wars, they did not gain any political victories, nor did they regain any land. The victory they gained was the reclamation of the temple and the ability to practice their religion and pray to their God. On the day that they regained control of the temple, they cleaned and they purified it, dismantling and rebuilding the holy altar, using fresh stones, and resumed the temple service. As the Torah commands, they rededicated the altar and the temple according to Jewish tradition. And they performed the 8-day rededication ceremony. The Hebrew word for dedication is Hanukkah. The rededication service at the Holy Temple involved a number of ceremonies. One of these was to light the temple menorah every morning. However, the holy oil was confiscated, or so they thought, by the Greeks when the temple was taken over. Yet, the Jews found a small amount of oil and used it, although they knew that it was not enough oil to properly fulfill the commandment of lighting the temple menorah for 8 days. The first miracle was finding the jar of oil. It should not have existed. And the second miracle is that given the small amount of oil, the candles lit from that one jar burned for 8 days straight throughout the rededication ceremony. The Jews not only regained their religion back, but were able to see the light that came out of the darkness. Their hope prevailed, and there was love and strength where there was only dark oppression before. The light of God was before them. Similarly, in Christian tradition, The second Sunday of Advent speaks of hope at the coming of the Messiah, who represents pure love. Candles are lit each week of Advent, following the theme of bringing in light, illuminating the darkness. Also paralleling these two festivals, interestingly, is the Indian holiday of Diwali, which is India's biggest and most important holiday of the year. It's celebrated immediately before the Christmas and Hanukkah seasons. The festival gets its name from a row of clay lamps that is placed in front of each person's house to symbolize the inner light that protects us from spiritual darkness. The light represents the recreation of the self and self-improvement and new beginnings, the same as Hanukkah and Christmas. So what does this mean to all of us today? We are living in a world that has seemingly spun out of control. It seems like we are constantly being barraged with stories of terrorism and mass murder. And yet, we must hope. We have to hope for a better tomorrow. Truly, without hope, who are we? And how can we go forward? The story of Hanukkah not only speaks of hope, but the miracle of winning a battle that in all reality should not have been won by the Jews. And then the miracle of the candle, bringing in the light in for 8 days and continuing forward. The candles that gave light as those oppressed people moved out of darkness into the light of freedom so that they could spiritually connect to God. Can we have that hope? Can we believe in the miracle that can only come from the greatest power, a God that loves us and wants us to feel his love in a sea of people who propagate hate and destruction? It's difficult, but I know it can be done. What if we all hoped? What if we all hoped together, universally, without the boundaries of religion or nationality? No boundaries, just as creations of the greatest creator. What if we had that hope? What if we focused on our commonality as human beings? We would create our own light. We would shine together in our belief that we can bring peace through and love, and that is the light. That energy would spread and overcome the darkness and light up the world for everyone. Think of that. Think of that world. Think of turning on the television and hearing stories of love and peace and beauty. Christmas to me is the physical birth of love. A star shone in the sky, high above the earth, to welcome in the baby who was the embodiment of love. It took strength for Mary to bring this baby in. It takes strength for us to allow him to light our lives today. Hanukkah is the story of courage, a battle won, which should not have been won. But they won, and the light was there. And it's there for us today. We are those candles. We are that light. We need to shine so the world can see. This season, and throughout 2016, let the world know through your words and through your deeds that you represent one of those candles. And together, collectively, let's bring hope and peace to this world that is in dire need of love. Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas to you, no matter what religion you practice. Let the light shine in whichever way that you can receive it, and in turn, let that light shine from you. Thank you.